Peace is not something you wish for. It's something you make, something you do, something you are, and something you give away. Robert Fulghum. This moment is for giving from the heart. In the stillness, I reflect on the aspects of my life that matter most. Health, family, safety, love, and more. Then I see in front of me a lake. I see ripples travel across the lake as a breeze touches the water's surface. This ripple effect is powerful. It is important. It is needed now in a world where there is war and civil unrest. So, I picture myself tossing a leaf or a daisy into the water as one small gesture, sending feelings of peace into the world. As the water shimmers, the ripples begin their journey across the lake. I will not see when they reach land, but each wave will find a home, a place to settle. My single well-wishing thought, filled with feelings of peace, like the leaf or daisy, will reach someone, somewhere, and leave an imprint. This imprint will be peace and will make a difference.
Greetings of peace. Welcome to Meditation Cafe. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you from wherever you are, and congratulations to all present here today. You surely are here today for the sole purpose of wanting to make a difference to your lives, to understand how through simple ways we can start eating healthier and make a dramatic difference in our health and wellness. My name is Dimple, and I'm glad to be the host for you today. So before we begin, some opening housekeeping. We do have translation for you available in Mandarin, Cantonese, and Tamil. For Cantonese speakers, you may have to select the option of Vietnamese, as we don't have that in our language option. So you are invited along the talk, all through the talk, to post your questions for Klig, who is our guest speaker, in the chat box. You can keep the questions coming all through while the program is on. Please post it directly to me under the name MC Dimple, so I can address your questions along the way. So to better manage the viewing, everyone's video will be turned off during the presentation. However, at the end, we will invite you to turn your videos on so that we can see everyone and say goodbye to all. But that's at the end. So stay tuned. And now I would love to invite our guest speaker, Klig Akerly, who is originally from Canada. Currently, she's at the Blue Mountain Retreat Center in New South Wales, Australia. Now, I have personally met Klig when she was here in ARC in Malaysia, and she's a wonderful and very, very, very cheerful person. Klig brings with her a wealth of experience from her earlier work as a restaurant chef in upscale West Coast, Canada, for over 30 years. Now, she was here with us also in our last month's talk on food and nutrition for mental health. And this is actually a continuation on special demand and request to talk to us more. The link will be posted here for you, for those who missed her last talk with us. So here we will be hearing from Klig to help us to refine and redefine how we look into the 4 essential food groups of our diet. Klig will also help us to find alternatives, affordable alternatives, to suit our needs as she promotes a vegan diet, plant-based, for everyone. So please do feel free, as I mentioned before, to post your questions in the chat box along the way. So here to you, Sister Klig, all yours.
Thank you. Hello, am I here?
I think your camera is not on, sister.
Oh, I beg your pardon. Yep. Okay, there we are. Okay, thanks. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Dimple, so much for that lovely introduction. And did I unmute? Yes, I unmuted. And yes, so I would just like to say that, some people ask, what my qualifications are, and, how do I know what I know, and like this, and how do you know so much sometimes? And actually, I did study nutrition when I was in university. We won't say how long ago that was. But I've also had always had an interest in nutrition based on that. And originally it came from a kind of a science background. But most importantly, it came when I first started to take a look and be what we call as proactive in my choices in my life. I found that I was more or less eating out of rote, out of habit. And the foods that I was eating, I came to learn, were not quote unquote bad foods. However, they had an accumulative effect, and they started affecting different organs. And then those organs started to display discontent, if you will, in different forms. And so my very first foray into eating differently, I was already eating a vegetarian diet for probably the better part of 17, 18 years, something like that. And then, but I wasn't feeling well. And it wasn't that I was like really unwell. It was just that I just felt there must be something that I need to do differently. And I had no idea that it was going to be food, but it turned out that it was food. I thought I would go to my naturopath and she would just, prescribe some sort of pills and this and that for me. But actually what I did was I went on my first food fast. And I was quite adamant that I would be really sticking to the diet. I wouldn't be cheating, and I would really just stick to it because I really wanted to see for myself if it made a difference. And so the main kind of symptom that I was feeling at the time was a low-grade headache. Also, I was having digestive problems, but that wasn't the one that was really concerning me. It was this low-grade headache. And because I have a high pain threshold, I didn't think it was a serious matchup, so I, was ignoring it. But then I found that it was, a little bit too much. It was happening too often. And when I went on the food fast, just the symptoms completely went away. So when I went on the food fast for 6 weeks, and, for some of us, that's a really long time, but I'll suggest some other alternatives. But that very first one, it really made me look at my food differently because I saw such immediate results. From that time, and so this would have been almost 30 years back, I decided that I was definitely going to be reducing my intake on dairy, and also reduce my intake on wheat, because both of those were the main culprits, if you will, for my not feeling well. And so my health, generally speaking, started to you can say, has come up to speed. So I was starting to feel more energy and a little bit more lightness and like this. And then fast forward about 15 years, then I started to show the signs of arthritis. And then I was saying, yeah, but telling myself, but it's not really that bad. And, it's not as bad as like my friend who has, her fingers were starting to get quite gnarled and she was having pain and discomfort. And I said, well, it's not that bad. My fingers aren't all gnarled. However, after about 5 years, then I started to really feel it in my knees. And one day it happened, I was at work. I was working in a special education school, and we happened to have a visiting orthopedic surgeon who came every, I think, 2 weeks or something like that to visit with the children. So he happened to be there one day, and I was feeling this particular pain in my knee. And I said, well, I might as well just go and get it looked at, rather than self-diagnose. So I went and he diagnosed, and he said it was definitely arthritis. And I said to myself, do I really want to be living 10 years hence with problems with my knee, possibly even having to have surgery on my knees or whatever? And for those of you who know me, I'm a very active person. And I also do a lot of volunteer work, which is my whole life now, actually. I volunteer at the Blue Mountains Retreat Center, and we have retreats every weekend. So at that time, I was looking forward 10 years. And I said, I don't want to be a burden on anyone. I don't want to be a burden on myself. I want to maintain the same kind of lifestyle that I have now. I want to be active, and I want to be able to be of service and of use. So in Canada, I had a naturopath. This was a different one that I went to. And this doctor had quite an intensive way to diagnose. And it was the arthritis that she was going to be primarily treating, but all the underlying issues were all around my digestion. And it started there about probably, at that time, it would have been probably 25 years back. And it just accumulated over time.
Beautiful, beautiful, sister. Actually, I just wanted to ask you, because, it's like such a beautiful thing that you were into education, so much into education, and then a straight jump straight into health and wellness, and looking at arthritis as something that became I will say an opportunity for you to research or step into new waters. And what I understand is that from speaking to you previously, you are in the food industry for over 50 years, and of which 30 years plus is in research and development, and trying to, you even last month, you had a talk on the mental health and how it helps with that. I mean, it is amazing how, it's really beautiful. I would like you to elaborate more on your journey. It's so beautiful.
Sure. Okay. So just recently, for example, the reason why I chose nutrition and mental health is that in Yarra Valley, outside of Melbourne, we have a retreat center. And the retreat center there was formerly the Ingola Foundation for Cancer Wellness. And their main emphasis to have people live either with their cancer or cure their cancer were two main ways. One is meditation, and the other is through living plant-based, but in particular certain kinds of plant-based. And while I was there, we also met people with Parkinson's. And as I was doing my research for the Parkinson's retreat, I came to learn that there are a lot of mental health issues that are related to food, and that there are actually people who are working on treating people. Like there's a psychiatrist, for example, in the United States. Her name is Uma Naidoo, Naidoo. And she trained as a nutritionist as well as she was already a doctor. And so that she could start to treat people with food instead of drugs. So that also kind of like spurred me on, just those kind of, and then there was different kinds of situations in my life where other people came to me, friends and acquaintances, and they said to me, like, I have, the signs of arthritis and what to do and like this. And so I just shared with them my experience. And again, I went on this food fast. And I like to call it food fast rather than a diet, or it turns out that the correct term is allergy. So I have an allergy to food, but as my doctor explained to me, allergy to many people means it's like you have a runny nose or sinus infections, or you sneeze every time a cat passes your path. But indeed, allergies just mean that you have a sensitivity to a certain kind of food, and that allergy is manifested in certain ways. So, for example, some of the people that responded to the Zoom meeting were saying that they have symptoms such as diarrhea or bloating or tiredness, depression. So depression is also one of those food-related things.
Is inflammation also part of allergy that can trigger,
yes,
or can it help as well? Inflammation, because
right.
A lot of them are talking about inflammation. In fact, I believe it could benefit me as well. So I would really love to learn more. And
okay,
yes.
So yeah, exactly. So this is what how I was helping myself. So there's foods that are anti-inflammatory. There are foods that are even antibiotic, and there are foods that will help with the anti-inflammatory. And help me out, what's the other one?
Is it allergies you're referring to, or
sensitivity? It's an antioxidant, sorry.
Antioxidant.
Right. So, for example, the pomegranate, that's an excellent example of an antioxidant. The almonds that are just behind me here. So the almonds are an anti-inflammatory. I thought I was going to be pointing so nicely, but anyway, it's the strawberries, also antioxidants. The broccoli, antioxidant and anti-inflammatory. Avocado, also anti-inflammatory and antioxidant. So knowing which foods it is that causes inflammation, which causes these, an antioxidant just simply means it's a vehicle which helps to promote more oxygen in the system, and will it will help the blood to work better. So any kind of symptoms that I'm having, even like, for example, I have low blood pressure. So foods that I was eating, even though they were good foods, I was unable to digest them. So I might be eating, like, say, for example, broccoli. Broccoli is a very high antioxidant. However, for me, it's actually too high. And I found that for starting, it was all the foods that I was eating that were going to be helping the arthritis. All of them were of a pH level, which is just a measure of acidity in the body. And the blood is, I believe, 7.3 or 7.4. So that level is the most beneficial level for the blood to do its work. If it's less or more, then the blood can't do its work properly.
So what I understand, it is to balance the acid and the alkaline levels in your pH balance in your blood. And how
Right,
do you,
that's correct.
what I was curious was, how do you actually find out, like you mentioned, broccoli is was not really suitable for you, you know, and your diet for arthritis. Now, how does one actually find out what foods are suitable and not suitable for them?
Right. So because I'm speaking both specifically and to the general public, so what I'm going to recommend is that people take a look at just these 4 basic food groups, because the research has shown that the food group that wheat belongs to, sugar, dairy, and oil. Those 4 have been targeted as the instruments for poor health.
Let
And
me get
some
that.
research.
Sorry,
Okay.
let me get that. It's oil, you mentioned, dairy, sugar, and the 4th one?
Wheat.
Wheat. Okay, all right.
Right. So wheat products. So now if I were to take a look at any product on the grocery shelf, and I pull it off the shelf and I take a look at it, I'm pretty sure you can find at least one of those ingredients on the list. Of course, there are going to be exceptions, like, and I'm talking about packaged foods here. I'm not talking about foods that are fresh, like almonds or avocados. So if I look at the ingredient list, there's 2 things that I need to look for. One, does it have any of these 4 ingredients in it, you know? And if it does, I think it's probably better just to put it back on the shelf. Now, say, for example, I'll give you an example of a certain kind of symptom and then the food group that it's associated with. But just for now, say, for example, I've chosen to move away from dairy. So I'm moving away from dairy, but then I pick up this food that I'm used to eating. And now I look at the package and it has whey in it. So it's WHEY. So it has a whey. So whey is a milk product, or it says on it, milk product, or it says skim milk. So anything related to milk, if I put that in my body and I'm supposed to be having a food fast from it, then what's going to happen is my body is going to revert back to having to protect itself against that food group, rather than helping me to eliminate the toxins that was created over time from that food group. So I really need to be diligent about looking at the ingredients. So I need to choose, for myself, I need to think, okay, what is it that I want to be able to overcome? Like, what would it be for you, Dimple, for example? What kind of symptoms are coming up for you?
I look into, like what you mentioned. For me, what I see is I'm having to deal with a nerve issue. And that is having caused some imbalance in my walking. I'm kind of unstable. And so I do now have made it a conscious effort to go to the shops and try to read the labels. But literally, I find it so difficult sometimes because like I look at most of the foods, as what you mentioned, whey, milk solids, they are even in breads, even in things like bread, and they always have like milk solids. It's really difficult, I find personally, to completely go off milk, dairy products for example.
Great.
So, yeah, if you could help us
Yeah.
more in that, it would really be
Okay.
beneficial.
So I think the best way is just to try and replace, because we want to, as long as we're focused on and having that determined thought about wanting to create wellness for myself, then just start as slow as possible. So start replacing any of the dairy with an alternative. So soy milk, for example. And the best, of course, would be to keep it as clean as you can. That means it's only soy milk or it's only almond milk. And they might have another thing on it, on the label, but it should say something like water, almonds, water, soybeans, and maybe it might have a little bit of salt in it or something, but it shouldn't have any numbers in it. It should be as clean as possible, as simple as possible. So just start there and just start replacing everything that you would normally use, where you normally use milk. You just replace it with that dairy alternative. Another way is to try and eliminate all refined foods, and just do it for a week. And within that week, just every day, make a determined thought not to eat anything refined. So refined means I didn't cook it myself. It means someone else cooked it. They put it in a tin, or they put it in a package, or they manufactured it somehow. Maybe they even dehydrated it, because sometimes if you look on the package of dehydrated foods, like especially fruits, you'll see they've added sugar, they've added oil, they've added sulfur dioxide, so your body is wanting to have that, say, the apricots, but the body can't access the nutrients in the apricots because of all the other additives that are in the way. So I have to make sure that I know what it is that I'm, what my goal is, and just to keep that goal in front of me. And even just if it's just, one day at a time, that do it for 7 days, there's this magic that happens in the body where the body starts to say, okay, now she's really trying to get on this healthy path. Let's start cooperating. But if on the 8th day, I go off and I add something to my diet that is not right, then my body will say, oh, hang on, let's revert back. Let's go into protection mode here because she's not really serious. So if I can manage to make it 7 days straight and then go ahead and make it another 2 weeks after that, so 21 days, then my body is totally ready to cooperate. And it will start healing itself because I've given it a break from trying to, get at these nutrients and access these nutrients that they need, So it'll give the stomach a rest, it'll give the heart a rest, the liver a rest, the kidneys a rest, the colon is going to get a rest. So
in other words, you're trying to tell me that with this, like what you said, having small changes or, creating new habits slowly, you can
Right.
help problems like high blood pressure, reverse osmosis, eliminating kidney stones, improving your neurological system, all that. It can be reversed or it can be improved or benefited.
Yes, it definitely reversed, and also the possibility of elimination as well. And for example, Ian Gola is a perfect example, and he has been for 40 years been touted as the example of a person who, he proactively eliminated the cancer in his body. And apparently he had two kinds. And he eliminated it through his diet. And his diet was plant-based. Of course, he added more elements in there to aid that particular disease. And we can do that as well. You can do your own research and see which one, which kind of group specific foods are the best for that. But say, for example, for arthritis and kidney stones, both of those are caused by too much acid in the body. Well, one of the main food groups that causes arthritis, there's two. One is wheat, and another one is the protein. So as a woman over 50, I need very little protein. Unfortunately, the media would have you believe that all people need a lot of protein. And so there's promotion for the meat and the soybean and all like this. But actually it's not, because the body can't eliminate that amount of protein once you get past the age of really needing the protein. So for me, I eliminated all, and I still do eliminate all of the like lentils and like that. And I'm not saying that people should do that, but they can just make it less if they have that kind of a symptoms, like especially if it's something like kidney stones. And the best for something like kidney stones or even arthritis is to just go on like a whole, just whole food eating. So all I eat is natural foods. So everything that's behind me is all an example of a natural food. It comes from the tree to the market and onto my plate. There's no other handling other than that, right? And that's the best way to give your major organs a rest, so that you can then move on. But specifically,
so out of the four groups, majorly making a difference to dairy products, as you would say, that is what is mostly misconcepted as protein, and wheat. It can really help a lot of our, what you call, lifestyle diseases.
Right.
Would that be?
And especially the wheat and the sugar, like they have a very close relationship in our societies, both in the Western and in the Asian cultures. Wheat and sugar are like hand in glove, as we say in English. And so again, looking at the labels, seeing what's actually inside, trying to avoid anything that's processed. And even if I'm going to just start very slowly, just choose whole grains. So even whole grain rice, for example. And sorry, May, can you just put up the the slide of the Albert Einstein? The thoughts, because this is the initial. I'm sorry, everyone, I just meant to say this before, but I had forgotten. So this is a very important thought, an idea that we can use to recreate a new way of eating. We cannot solve problems by using the same kind of thinking we used when we created them. Yeah. So if I want to change the way I'm feeling, I have bloating, for example, then I have to find what the source of that bloating is. And so if the source of that bloating is going to be the gluten in the wheat, then as soon as I stopped, and this was definitely true for me even before I went on my food fast when I was a young woman. Actually, it's in my family with the three sisters. All of us have that, and all of us ate a lot of wheat. So and I found for myself, as soon as I stopped eating wheat, all of a sudden the bloating stopped. So there was a direct correlation for me. And then when I ate something that had wheat in it, like if I ate a piece of cake or a muffin or a bun or something like that, then the next day, then the bloating would be there as well. So there's a for me, there was a definite relationship there.
So it best works with a lot of experimentation, as what you mentioned. The wordings are so beautiful. And really, I find that it's, it's really nice. But there are people nowadays who talk about eating according to your blood type. Do you have anything to share about that? Or
well, actually, I did that for a while, but I find that just focusing on these 4 major groups was actually a better way of managing my diet. Because these 4 major groups are very, they're the ones that really cause the most of the anti-inflammation. I mean, the inflammation and the oxidation, which is basically the acidity in my body. And so people will have things like the diarrhea, totally related to the dairy. Anything with the lungs, totally related to the dairy, because what happens is that the milk products are not properly digested. They're creating like a toxicity, like in the body, in the bloodstream, and then the body has to combat that by sending out the white blood cells, and then there becomes an imbalance. So I want to get myself back to balance as much as possible. And if I eat the foods that are balanced, which means that they're not, they're around like 6.8 pH and like this, you can just go online and just, for example, you can just say broccoli, and then they'll tell you how much the pH level is. Yeah. So if I just start making choices that are going to be around the promote anti-inflammatory conditions in the body, foods that will promote antioxidants to be created in the body, yeah, then that's what's going to be really helping me more. And May, could we just have that slide on the brain on food? So here's an example. So earlier, you were talking, Dimple, about the neurological system. And so these foods are all foods which you can see they made a brain. There's celery here, there's some lettuce, there's some capsicum, some vitamin C is there with the oranges, the citrus fruits. There's cucumber, which has a lot of water in it. Carrots.
What I see is a lot of colors, sister.
A lot of colors,
yes,
right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And that variety of colors is what we need to eat, because so often we eat with our eyes. So if you want to show the next slide, we can show an example of what happens when we eat with our eyes. What you are looking for is already inside you. Do you think that's true, Dimple?
Absolutely. It's so nice, this picture. You often find yourself going to the fridge, opening it and just looking, what do you have or what can you munch on?
Right.
And, you don't really need the food. You're not really hungry, but this picture speaks a lot, I see.
Right. And that's another point for me that was really important, is that I had to, again, take responsibility, for myself, not blame the food, but, was I eating with my eyes? So, for example, was I eating before I was eating? So that means I look at food and I would see this, my passion is anything with wheat. So my passion was, like, say, muffins. So, which I still, by the way, like to eat, but now I make them with gluten-free. But so I'd see this muffin and go, oh my God, I bet that tastes really, really good, And then I'd look at it, the name of it, and it would say, like, pecan or some food that I really like, blueberry, whatever. And I'd think, oh, muffins, oh, they're so good for you. But when I look at the ingredient list, first ingredient is wheat. Second ingredient is sugar. That means that more than 40% of the product is going to be sugar inside of it. So what am I really eating? Right? So I think
that is
I
a
might be
question
eating wheat.
here. That is a question here. Like when you mention about these 4 essential food groups, like when you talk about wheat, as what I mentioned earlier, it is in every product, like you mentioned in muffins, sugar.
Right.
They are in every product. So how do we find alternative replacements? Is there anything that you can help us with replacements, or how you mentioned that we can replace them?
So, yeah. So what we can start, can I go? Yeah, thanks. So for me, I need to look at things like really starting to eat as whole foods as possible. So going to whole foods like brown rice instead of white rice. So making those kind of choices. So if I have, for example, cereal is a common thing to have for breakfast. So if I have cereal for my breakfast, most of that cereal is going to have wheat in it. And if it's going to have wheat in it, it's definitely going to have sugar in it. So maybe go for another alternative. Go for a brown rice congee, for example, and that's popular as a Chinese breakfast. Go for black rice. Go for red rice. And sometimes people say, oh, it takes so long to make. But what I do is I just simply make, especially if I'm making it for other people, I just simply soak it the night before. And then it takes the same amount of time as it does to make the white rice. So I just put it in the rice cooker and cook it up. And then once that's cooked, then I can do so many other things with it. Another ingredient that I know is very plentiful in Malaysia is sago or tapioca. That's a very good alternative.
That's nice, because in Malaysia, Malaysians are very used to having very heavy breakfast. Nasi lemak, for example, is a very common breakfast that is eaten, it's a food that can be eaten like for breakfast, for lunch, for dinner. And literally when you say nasi lemak, lemak means fat. So it's like fat rice, you're eating fatty rice.
Yeah. So what I do is I just, now oil is important in the diet, but it's how I eat the oil and when I eat the oil and what the oil is. So those are, again, also choices that I make. So I can choose not to have the oil or avoid oil that is that's going to be detrimental. So for example, what's going to be detrimental is anything deep fried. For sure, just eliminate the deep fried, because what we're after is the taste. And the oil actually brings out and enhances the taste, just like salt does. And it also acts as a preservative. So that's why it works as street food so easily, because especially in hot countries, because it preserves the food. Plus it tastes good. So the customer will keep coming back for more of it, right? But what I can do is I can just add the oil at the end, and I don't have to use that much because I'm adding it at the end. And I can do things like have like the nuts or the seeds and just dry roast them. And whenever I feel like something, like I feel like I want that, because we do need oil, as I say. So a lot of times when I see that kind of food on the street, what was the name of that food now?
No wonder that actually explains why I see the Chinese way of cooking. They tend to add, after cooking, they turn off the flame and they add sesame oil or things like that. Would you recommend that? Is that healthier?
Yes, definitely, because that in that particular oil as well. So sesame oil, brown red palm oil, which is available, extra virgin olive oil, and if you can get it in your country, flaxseed oil, coconut oil, definitely. So coconut oil that's not refined, because unfortunately they've started now, the last time I was in Malaysia, I noticed that they started to use refined oil. So as long as it doesn't say refined on it, if it says unrefined, and it should say unrefined on the label, and if it doesn't, I would not recommend to buy that particular food. So add any of these oils at the end. And if I'm walking along, I'm really feeling like I need some fatty food, then just take some dry roasted seeds or nuts, like even sesame seeds. So good, just like dry roast sesame seeds. And what that means is you just put the sesame seed in the pan on a very medium to low heat, and you just kind of get it goldeny. And if I just keep those with me, then whenever I feel that feeling to have some fried food, I just put those in my mouth and eat them. And then that feeling of wanting that fried food will go away, because the mind is telling the body, because of what's going on inside your digestive system, it's telling you that you need that food right now, but it doesn't need the fried food. It just needs the oil, right? So all I need to do is to put some nuts, or if you have avocados handy, or there are some fruits I know in Asia that have some fat in it, and I'm not sure right now which ones they are, but you certainly can find that out. And yeah, so just have those kind of things as replacements. Now, myself being from the West, it's easier to find gluten-free things, and I can give a recipe if you want.
Yes, please. That would be delightful to have recipes.
Yeah.
I think because gluten-free is something I'm exploring myself, and I find them like, not so commonly available, but they are available, as what I researched a little bit. And it's really nice, because you were mentioning about the four groups, oil. So you mentioned about oil to replace, coconut oil. What I understand is extra virgin, oils, or unrefined oils. Am I right?
Yes.
Yeah. And then Sugar. How do you replace the sugar, or what are the alternatives for sugar?
Right. So sugar is very high acidic food, and it's very difficult for the body to access it in a way that it can use properly. Because what happens with the refined sugar that we have now, like the white sugar, what happens is that the body accesses the sucrose almost immediately, like within, say, 20 minutes or something like that. And what happens is the blood sugar will spike, causing the pancreas to be overloaded because it can't produce the insulin that it needs in order to break down the amount of sugar that's come in at that time. And then, of course, over time, then you'll get diabetes depending on how much you've eaten. So one of the way, and then also it causes inflammation because it's an acid, right? So anything acidic, any acidic foods will cause inflammation to come in the body. So what I've learned is that certain foods, like you have access to coconut sugar, and that, also just make sure that it does say that it's only got coconut sugar in the product, because there is such a thing as added sugar to it. They add cane sugar to it. I would definitely avoid all cane sugar, unless if you can get, I know in India, when it's the season, you can actually get the sugar cane from the street vendor, and they have a little small machine that's hand done, so it's not refined.
What about jaggery? Do you mean jaggery?
No,
The
it's
Indian
not
sugar.
It's from, it is. It's kind of like that, but it's jaggery itself is kind of refined in a way because of the process. But at least ways jaggery, if that's the only one that's available, would be way better choice than the white sugar.
What
And you
about
also
brown
need
sugar?
That's the other thing about the coconut sugar and the jaggery and the palm sugar, date sugar. All of those it's such a high concentration of sugar. It's like that sucralose and those fake sugars that they have, very high concentrated. So you need very little, and you have that sweet taste. If you use the white sugar, you need almost as much. You need like double the amount in order to get that same amount of sweetness. So again, the body will start to cooperate if I give it what it needs, and I don't try to negate or say I'm deficient, I can't have it, and all. We want to avoid that negative thinking and try and see like that. The more I go to the purer the foods are, the less refined the foods are, and just start avoiding the kind of foods that are going to be detrimental to my health, and start looking for alternatives. So look for coconut sugar, look for date palm sugar, look for even palm sugar is okay. Jaggery
Brown
is okay.
sugar?
Brown sugar, no, that actually turns out that it's just white sugar with added molasses. So it's refined sugar, unfortunately.
And what about, like you mentioned, what do you call the sugarless? They call it stevia. Is it stevia?
Yeah. So
I
found, right, unfortunately, what I found out about stevia is that stevia is also refined. So it actually doesn't do your body very much good unless you have access to a stevia plant. If you have a stevia plant, then you can just eat the leaves, and that's break the leaves up, put it in the food, and that's fine. But I wouldn't recommend stevia or any of those products, because what actually happens is the body will now start to read that fake sugar as real sugar. And because I'm not ingesting it to the same extent because it's so concentrated, then it will not send the pancreas going crazy, right? But actually the body can't digest it and it has to go somewhere. And so it ends up building up as a toxin in the body. So it's not very good for you to eat. So any of those, like, again, any of these foods that are behind me, you know, as much, if you have a blender, if you have access to a food immersion product, those are really handy to start helping me to eat in a different way, because they break the food down, one, which is excellent because it makes it easier for the body to digest, and number two, it makes it the food very, very fast. There's even blenders now that you can make soup in 5 minutes. You can put all the ingredients in there, close the lid, turn the machine on, program it for soup, and in 5 minutes you've got hot soup, you know, and it's perfect food because it's not had anything added to it. It's just completely raw food that's been heated, actually, is what it is. And so that's kind of the way that we want to start to think is. And another tip that I would say is, if you can have the goal to eat 80% of your food is plant-based, unrefined, then 20% can be refined and not plant-based. At least then the body has a good base for promoting a healthy lifestyle.
That's beautiful. That's what people always say, the 80-20% rule. It even applies in food, you know, in a lot of things I see. And what I understand is sugars, as what you mentioned, try staying away from any form of refined, natural fruits. I think like having a banana or, you know, fruits from, sugars from fruits. Would that be more like your blends? I would call it smoothies, or I think those are a quick fix, you know, something nutritious. I remember when you were here in JB in Malaysia, you used to make these quick smoothies and used to say that you start your day with that, you know, you start it right. And then the rest of the day, it's okay if you know, make little mistakes here and there. That was something really nice. And we would love to have some beautiful recipes from you. I think
Sure,
to make it easy for everyone.
Yeah. But so what I basically, like, say when I was working, I would make probably about 750 mils of I put in about 6 different kinds of foods, not very much of it. Probably about, say, this much of the vegetable. And I used to put in 1 whole banana and a half an apple, just because I happened to need that energy because of the work that I was doing. But you can make the proportions as you wish. And then I used to add a little bit of brown rice if I had it from leftover, or sometimes I'd have quinoa or rice flakes or something like that. And sometimes I'd put in some soaked almonds just to give it a little bit extra of sustaining power for me. And I remember many times when I was working, I was out in the field, as we say, and I wasn't able to pack food with me, and I wasn't able to access you know, the restaurants. And so I would find that from, say, 7 in the morning until 1, even 2 o'clock sometimes in the afternoon, I didn't have any food. I'd had probably some water, but I didn't have any food, and I was fine, and I had enough energy. And it was just from that, 10-15 minutes of making that smoothie,
Is that what they
sustaining.
call intermittent fasting? Would you recommend that? And maybe you can
Yeah,
give a little bit about that.
Yeah, so that's another really interesting thing that's come up now for people. However, it will really only work if, again, you have an aim and an objective for it. So, say for example, my aim is to, say I have bloating or something wrong with the digestive system. So they say that the intermittent fasting is, and I personally haven't done intermittent, I've just done other kinds of food fasting, but my friends who have done it say that it really has helped them. And the reason why it helps them is because they're giving the stomach and all the related organs like the pancreas, the bile ducts, the gallbladder, the large intestine. So they're giving those major organs a rest because we're not working on the food. And then those other organs that are not related directly to digestion, they can do the work that they need to do. So for example, the liver is the kind of the garbage place, the septic tank of the body. So it will get rid of the toxins because it's not working to help promote digestion because you're not eating. So the liver is helping to detoxify. The lymphatic system gets a break because you're not having to use that, right? The large intestine gets a break because it doesn't have to pass the food through the body, right? So the kidneys also get a rest. So they can do their work. And what's their work? Their work is, basically that's the literal toilet of the body, and it will get rid of the toxins there, So that's why intermittent fasting works. Now, it won't work if your main problem is, like mine was, the digestion of the food itself. I was maybe able to digest, but I wasn't able to, I could break down the food, but I wasn't able to assimilate and absorb the food. And so that one didn't work for me because I needed to do something a little bit more like drastic. So I had to go on food fasts. But for starting it, if you want to go on the 80-20% and then try the intermittent fasting, and I think the time period is 14 hours. So between meals. So one of my friends, for example, eats at, I think it was like around 9 o'clock in the morning and 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and then not again until 9 o'clock. So that was about 12, 14 hours, something like that, in between.
Yeah, it's like the 12-hour, 24-hour, half and half clock or longer.
Right.
Sometimes I hear 14 or 16 hours, depending on, the
Right.
diet. And it's so much we have taken back, so much we have learned. And somebody did mention here that dairy products, it has mucus that creates mucus in the body.
Right.
Maybe you just want to elaborate a little bit on that. Is that?
Okay, so dairy is one of those things where the main component of the food that we can't eat is the lactose, and we can't digest it because our body actually stops after the age of 5, I think it is. The body stops producing the enzyme to break down the lactose, which is called lactase. It can't break it down. So all the cheese that I'm eating and everything, what's happening to it? You know, it's just literally rotting inside the body because the body can't break it down. And so all those remnants from that breaks up as toxins, and that toxin is particularly known as resides in the body as mucus. And also it promotes candida, which is another state, which is a really horrible kind of condition that many people have and they don't even know. And it's a kind of like a bacterial infection, and it can cause things like even chronic fatigue and depression and a lot of like kind of like by products, you know, symptoms that are, again, it's not something like cancer where it's like, oh my God, the person has a tumor, you know, that's like obvious, but it's all this accumulation, you know. And if I'm feeling tired, if I'm feeling out of sorts, if I'm feeling like I've got cramps in my stomach, if I'm feeling any of that way, it's the pain is a mechanism for protection of the body to alert me that something is not right. And once I stop eating that thing that's not right, the body will immediately respond, because that's what the body is all about, is promoting
very beautifully said. Very beautifully said. That your body gives you signals. Your body listen to your body. That is what I would, look at it as. And okay, unfortunately, we are running out of time. And if there's anybody who has any more questions, maybe we can take one, but I don't think we have time left for that questions. But you can keep the questions coming in the we have the YouTube live. We can put it under the comment section. You can give us your questions. And I think I'm very sure Sister Klig would be very, very happy to answer those questions for you. So as you go along, now what I can recap is we've learned so much today. We've learned about the 4 essential food groups that we can refine and redefine, as you say it. The oils, taking care of the oils, no processed oil, or what do you call it? How would you say it? Unsaturated, saturated, those oils, sugars, going as natural as possible, wheat, staying away from the gluten and trying to find gluten-free options. I think we can even share some photos of, maybe Sister, do you have some examples like in Malaysia, what could be readily available for us? And dairy products, lactose, as the body speaks beautifully, your lactose intolerance, how you can keep of that and listen to your body. That is the key that I take from here. And I love the way you say it, start it slow, start it on a weekly basis, tune your body or kind of program it to a new lifestyle to make it last forever. And I think we've taken back a lot of things. Is there anything that you want to add on, Sister?
I think I just want to add that I would just encourage everyone to really just take a look at what it is that you want to change, and then just go ahead and just try it for one day, and then see how it is, right?
Right.
And then adding to it and doing just keep going with it like that, and just know that if you do it one day at a time for 7 days, then you're already starting on a whole new regime, and reflect and look and see how it is for you,
Beautiful.
And I'm more than happy to, to share
There's
anything.
one last question here, Sister.
Yeah, go ahead.
Are most nuts and seeds acidic? Are nuts and seeds acidic?
No, the best ones would be, and generally speaking, they're not. They're on the 7-ish scale. But sometimes the certain kinds of oils that are in the nuts are not so good. But it's not. We wouldn't eat that much of it to make it detrimental to our health, right? And especially if you soak the nuts, like if you soak cashews and definitely throw the water out. If you soak the almonds, even walnuts, although they don't taste so good when they're soaked. But those two for sure, if you soak them before, you eat them, like at least 6 hours, they say. It's much better. I just wanted to mention, Dimple, that I forgot to add when you were asking about the gluten-free. There's a mix, and I'll post it after on the YouTube. There's a mix that you can make that's available in the West and in the East. It's just brown rice flour, white rice flour, and tapioca starch. And
you mean you can make that yourself and
make it yourself
for things like bread
yourself? Yeah,
making bread. People like to
muffins, cakes,
chapatis. Indian food, they like to eat chapatis.
Yeah, you can make all of that, and you need to add a little bit of extra of this and that and the other thing, but that's also, but it's absolutely doable and absolutely possible.
Beautiful.
I've been experimenting with that particular product for about 10 years now. Yeah.
Wow. So it's like, okay, what about the noodles and pastas and those, do they?
Yeah, so any of those, if we just go again, if you, instead of the wheat pasta, just go for the brown rice pasta, or even the lentil pastas if you have them available. Like just try and find alternatives to all the foods that you present. Definitely an alternative. Yeah.
So I believe if anyone has any questions in your program, in your comment section, if they post it, we will bring the questions to you. And if you have any more questions, I think we'll take that on. So really wonderful sessions, Klig. It was wonderful. Learned so much myself, and I wish we had more time. So yeah, they're mentioning bihun here. I think bihun is the alternative to rice noodles, right? So with that, is that okay that we now going to, Sister, you were mentioning about some of the sites. You have put together for us some recipes, some sites. Maybe the recipe, you can post it later. Yeah, these are, do you want to talk about it? Or, yeah, I believe these are what is commonly available, Malaysia, Singapore, whichever part of the world that you come from, you would have websites like these, Village Grocer. Very common is Shopee and Lazada, where I see that you can buy a lot of alternatives. And
yes,
they have, so if they have questions, they can always post to us. Now, here is also a list of recommended sites by Sister Klig herself, by Klig. And these are, can you elaborate, tell us a little bit about these sites?
Okay, so the first one is about eating for your brain, to have a better mood and better outlook on life, better attitude. So these are all foods that she recommends, and the way of eating, she recommends that to improve the way that I eat and improve my mental health, basically. And then the mindful eating is the how I eat. So I need to change not only what I eat, but also how I eat if I want to really make long-term changes. And that's very good. It's only about an 8-minute video, and it's really well explained. And this good common sense approach to eating well, that's just a general outlook on how to eat differently. And then these are some, this website in particular, I quite like this, myweekendplan.asia. And that was a Malaysia website. And they have different kinds of of recipes, but in particular, they researched different blenders that were available in Malaysia. And then there's also one with a hand blender and called an immersion or food immersion blender. And I also recommend having those because it's very easy to make very nice sauces and different kinds of quick foods that just make the my eating a little bit more interesting.
Lovely. I hope you all have taken screenshots of these, and we will also put them available, make it available to you in the YouTube comment section. So yeah, I think this is wonderful. I would want to, like what you said, start slow and steady and reprogram my mind and, make alternative
80-20, 80-20,
80-20. Beautiful. So that rule, I think, applies everywhere. And I think we can do this. And thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, I learned so much, and I think we all can make small changes, as you mentioned. So with that, I would actually love you to give us a short commentary, since it's meditation, to let us absorb all this wonderful information that we have just learned and taken in.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. So I'm going to ask that maybe we close our eyes because I find the background is a bit full on. So closing my eyes, I sit comfortably and very still. And taking a few deep breaths in and out. I just let my mind full of all this information, maybe a little overwhelming. But for the next few moments, let me just bring my mind to a restful place. Maybe I can imagine I'm sitting by a river. In a nice meadow, lovely fragrant flowers all around me. I hear the wind rustling the grass. And as I watch the water passing in front of me, I think my mind is like that as well. Just smooth, flowing, not feeling any tension. And I bring this stillness, this peace that I'm feeling, bring it through every organ in my body, every cell. And this peace is reflected, reverberates outside of me as well. If I find my self-thinking of something else, I just bring it gently back to the scene that I've created, where I'm sitting comfortably, feeling the warmth of the sunshine, hearing the birds, watching the water flow in front of me. If any waste thoughts come, it's like I see little pieces of wood floating in the water, passing by me. It's also like my thoughts. They just float away. And I don't need to think about them again. And in this restful, peaceful state, come back to the awareness, the chair that I'm sitting in, the awareness of the room that I'm in. And I bring this peace with me. And let it fill the space that I'm in. So when I get up from the chair, I know that that peace is with me. And with peace, happiness also will come. And with happiness, gratitude. I'm so grateful for the body that I have to use as an instrument. It's very good to me, and I will be very good to the instrument. Thank you.
Thank you. Full of gratitude for such a wonderful talk. Now for some closing remarks, links to Klig's recommended sites and recipes will be shared under the YouTube comment section. If you have any questions for Klig after the program, you can write it you can write it to us at meditationcafe2021@gmail.com. If you'd like to learn more about meditation, visit this wonderful website, learnmeditationonline.org, or contact us about free meditation courses in your country. So, for all those who have provided us with your WhatsApp number and link, a recording will be sent to you in a few days. Do give it a like if you enjoyed this program and would love to have more programs like this in the future for us. So finally, I think it's time for us all to switch on our videos.
Yes, please.
And put it on gallery mode so that we can see each other. We can see all of us, Sister Klig, and we can see all of you together. And this would be nice. And say our goodbyes, but
I actually
yeah.
myself don't know how to do it.
You go view gallery. Put it on view gallery.
There we are.
Yes.
Great. Oh, hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining. It's so much good.
So all the translations are also translators who have done a wonderful job. thanks to everyone, because a program is only successful with team working together.
I see you. Yes, and
Good
thank
smile.
you.
Maybe
I
they
hope
could
it
take a
was. I hope
snapshot.
it was okay to. I didn't speak too quickly. I get a bit excited sometimes. Yeah, it was okay. Thank you, Siwi.
I think we can take a screenshot or photo of all our smiling faces.
Good.
So yeah, that would be nice. I think somebody could do that. Thank you. So thank you, Klig. Thank you so much
You're
for this
welcome.
wonderful talk. And I think we have a lot more to come in the future. I'm sure they have a lot more questions and a lot more to learn. So yes, hope to
Okay.
see you again soon.
Yep. Good. Okay. Bye
Thank
bye.
you. Bye-bye.